up selling it, I wanted to do sort of a farewell tour, I guess, and do a little video with it. So anyway, I figured we would just kind of scroll through the deck like we did in my earliest videos. But first I wanted to show the centerpiece card that the deck is built around. You guys saw me pull this particular card out of a deck builder's toolkit. It's a foil Evacious Dragon. I have a full playset of Evacious in here. From the first time I saw this card, I wanted to build a burn deck around him. I think players who play burn in any capacity can recognize how awesome he is. A lot of people who don't play burn look at him and just don't get the point at all. His ability is, at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. So you're drawing 2 cards at the beginning of your turn instead of 1. But his downside, at the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. Now a lot of people see that, and they're like, well, what's the point of drawing extra cards, so I'm throwing my hand away. But if you play burn, you know good and well your hand is probably empty by that point anyway. Burn is very rapid fire. You're trying to burn creatures off of the field with direct damage really rapidly, as well as trying to throw burn at your opponent's health. Just run them out of life really aggressively. So if your hand is empty half the time anyway, it really helps to have something like this on the field where you're replenishing your hand size. And what's more, 4 mana for 4/4 flyer, that's a really good turnaround just in of itself. It's a very relevant body size that helps add to the rapid fire damage. And, some of the best games I've played with this deck is when by sheer luck I can get 2 of these puppies in play at the same time, because when that happens, I'm drawing, each one lets me draw 1 additional card. So it's a total of 3 draws every turn. And like I said, if you have any experience playing burn, you can see how, drawing 3 cards a turn, I mean, that's just insane. It's just constant hellfire raining down on your opponent. A card I wanted another playset of that really complemented it was Thunderbreak Regent. He has an exactly identical body to Evacious Dragon. He's a 4-drop for a 4/4 flyer. But I really like this ability here. Whenever a dragon you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, Thunderbreak Regent deals 3 damage to that player. So as you know in burn, you're hitting your opponent for a lot of damage really rapidly, and they have to be careful of their life. So he's just really good at protecting both himself and Evacious. So I've got a playset of each of these. They work really well together, both in their body size, of how cheap they are for a 4/4 flyer, and yeah, even if you take them out of play, you get hit for having done so. Like Evacious, this guy gets really stupid if you're lucky enough to get 2 or more of them in play, because it would trigger both times. So if I have 2 Thunder Breaks in play, then when a dragon of mine gets targeted, both of the Thunder Breaks would trigger as a result, and then they would take 6 damage just for targeting my dragons. So I wanted to show those 2 first, because they're sort of the cornerstones of how this deck works, and then from there we'll just go through and see what we've got here. I bought these Bowser sleeves on impulse when I figured out I was going to do a dragon-themed burn deck. I couldn't resist. Oh, right here, this is another guy who synergizes Dragon Lord's Servant. 2-drop for a 1/3, so he can kind of help me establish board presence early on. It's hard for them to get like early game swingers at me. I've got a relatively good blocker for only 2 mana. But really, this right here is the kicker. Dragon spells you cost 1 less to cast. So it's easier for me to throw the dragons out real cheap and have leftover mana for cheap burns. Titan Strength. I'm so glad they reprinted this. This is such a stupendously great card. For 1 red, Swift Spirit, you gotta have Swift Spirit. Once these rotate out, I'm probably gonna keep them for Modern and Legacy Burn, because they're just so good. For a 1-drop, it's a 1/2 haste. And then that Prowess can just really get mean if you don't watch out for it. Anytime you cast a non-creature spell, it's +1/+1 until end of turn. So it combos really great off of Titan Strength here, because then not only does it get the 3/1, the +3/+1, but then it also gets the Prowess. So you're swinging for 5 for 2 mana. Arc Lightning, 3 damage divided between 1, 2, or 3 target creatures or players. I like this for how versatile it is, but I'm debating replacing it with Exquisite Firecraft. Exquisite Firecraft is 3 mana to deal 4 damage to 1 target, so it's not as versatile because you can't split up the damage, but it packs just a little bit more of a punch, so it might be more prudent for me to just really try and turn this into a heavy hitter deck. Another Dragon Lord Servant. Collateral damage. I'm gonna set this one aside for a second. I have a card in here that combos off of it, and then we'll talk about it then. Another Evacious. He's gonna have a full playset. I don't think the deck would work if I didn't have a full playset of him. He's really the cornerstone that brings it all together. Abbot of Carol Keep. He's kind of like Swift Spear. He's a really cheap prowess. But what I mostly have him in here is for his ability. When he enters the battlefield, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of turn, you may play that card. So again, he's kind of like he's not really a draw card, but it's sort of like a next best thing type scenario. If I'm sitting on an excess amount of mana, which you don't really want to in red, but I mean, it's gonna happen sometimes. And then you play this guy, maybe you can throw something down on top of him, and you can dig a little deeper into the deck, get to something good a little faster. Mountains, just... I really should get some full art mountains in here. I've got a few of them laying around, I just haven't taken the time to switch anything out yet. Oh man, if we were playing a game, that would have been a terrible mana pocket. Another collateral damage, we'll come back to it in a second. My cards aren't divided up very well. Oh, this guy. I've only got 2 of him in here, and I'm debating taking him out, because 5 is a little expensive for this deck. I try to make this deck move quickly, but he's just been so useful in the games that I've played him in. He's got an okay sized body, 4/5, 5-drop, and then the trample. But what I really like is this ability. If another red source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much damage +1 to that permanent or player instead. So that adds up fast if you're like throwing around all kinds of stuff. And what's neat is how he combos off of Arc Lightning, which is another reason I have this one in here instead of Exquisite Firecraft, is because the 1 damage applies to every time a permanent or player gets hit. So if you divide this up, it's still getting the damage boost. So if I say divide it between 3 targets, it's now doing 2 damage to each of those targets, because every time those targets are dealt damage, they take that much damage +1. So the 1/1/1 damage is now doing 2/2/2. Or, or you could do 2 and 3 damage, or 4 to 1 solid target. So, but then again, if I had Exquisite Firecraft, he would turn Exquisite Firecraft into a 5 damage punch into the face. So 3 mana for 5 damage to player would be pretty great. So I'll still have to consider that. I may have to. What I may do is I'll put Exquisite Firecraft in the main deck, and maybe I'll keep Arc Lightning as a sideboard option against like tokens and elves, things with weak bodies but can build up an army real fast. So then I can use the divide damage against, little armies of weak creatures getting stacked up against me. more mountains. Another Thunderbreak. I have a full playset of him too. More Titan Strength. Mountains. Another Ember Maw. Another Thunderbreak. Okay, here we go. This is the one I was looking for earlier. Now both of these do okay in the deck in of themselves, but when I can play them together, it's really nasty. I've hurt my opponents so badly with this combo before, and I've gotten so many players mad at me for using it. And they're both common cards, but they just play together so well. Now, what Act of Treason does: gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste. Now, I'm sure most people watching the video are already familiar with Act of Treason. It's been around forever. It's been reprinted so many times, but it's still just a really fun card. I've won so many games with Act of Treason, just getting to snatch one top player from your opponent and then punching them in the face with it can really turn the game around. But now this right here, collateral damage. This happens to be a foil one. As an additional cost to cast it, sacrifice a creature. Collateral damage deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So it's kind of like a lightning bolt, but with the added downside that you have to sacrifice a creature. But there's been times I will happily sack my creatures to get that last 3 damage in, or there's been times when Act of Treason by itself has saved my hide, but when I can cast both of them in tandem, it's really mean. Because what I'll do is I'll take their creature from them, and I'll hit them with it. And then while their creature is still under my control, I'll cast collateral damage and sacrifice their creature with it. So I hit them with their creature, hit them with 3 damage, and I get to kill their creature. So it's just a really nice wave of really shifting the board. The entire game is turned around by using that combo on my opponents before. Foil Dragonlord Servant. I can really take or leave foil, but it's nice to have some of them in the deck, I guess. That might, oh no, here's another one. I was thinking I had shown everything, but here we have Creator's Claws. Deals X damage to target creature or player. So you pay 1 red, and then whatever you have left over, and you just put as much mana as you can into it to hit him as hard as you can, basically. It's a really good finisher. But, it deals that much damage plus 2. So if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Between the dragons and the Ember Maws, I usually have enough that have a creature in play that can trigger that. If I have the Ember Maws, I guess it would technically be plus 3 damage, because the Ferocious triggers, and then plus the Ember Maw triggers, making it do an additional 1 damage, so yeah, that would really hit them pretty hard. Arc Lightning. Abbott. I think now we may have seen everything. Collateral, Vivacious. Yep, I believe that is all of it. Nope, one more. I only have one of this guy in here, but it's pretty interesting. Dragon Master Outcast. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 6 more lands, put a 5/5 red dragon creature token flying onto the battlefield. Ideally, this deck doesn't really need 6 lands, but if it gets to that point, this is a nice little bonus. A 5/5 dragon every turn is pretty devastating if they don't do something quick. If they can't win the game in a hurry, then that's pretty much over. He draws removal like a magnet, because, you know, they're not going to let him stay in play if they can help it. But, you know, even then, that means they're having to waste a removal spell on a 1-drop. So on turn 1, I throw this guy out, and then later in the game, they're having cast removal cards just to get rid of this guy. They're having to throw something out of their hand to get rid of him instead of waiting. And then, by the time I play like Evacious or Thunderbreak, they've already gotten rid of the removal spell they had in hand, so I don't know. I might put one or two more of these guys in here at some point. Particularly as stuff rotates out. He's from Zendikar, so he'll be around a little longer. I guess all this depends whether or not to keep the deck. I don't know. I might keep this one. I'm a little too fond of it, and so much of it is put together with Origins that it'll be a while before it rotates out. It has some Takir stuff in it, but the cons of Takir stuff can be easily replaced. Like I said, the Arc Lightnings I'm planning to replace with Exquisite Firecraft anyway, and some of the other stuff that goes out I can replace with more of these guys. They're a little hard to come by, but I can probably trade my way into them. I've got some good cards laying around I'm not using, so I can always trade for them. But yeah, just in case I do end up selling it, at least now I have it immortalized in this video.